There is a quiet rebellion happening inside you. A small, persistent voice that whispers when you're about to make a choice, a decision about your own life. It asks you not what you want, but what will keep the peace, what will make them happy, what will finally earn that nod of approval, that sigh of relief, that feeling of being a good son, a good daughter. You have built your life around this question. Your career, your relationships, the very person you pretend to be each day. It is all, in some way, an answer to it. And in doing so, you have become a stranger to yourself. You feel a hollow space where your own desires should be. A life lived on behalf of someone else is a life half lived. Today, we will explore why the need to please your parents can be the very chain that keeps you from feeling truly free, and how, in the quiet understanding of this bond, you might finally begin to live for yourself. You see it in the small moments. The career path you chose, not because it called to you, but because it was respectable. The partner you bring home, secretly hoping they will meet some unspoken standard. The hobbies you abandon because they seem frivolous. The opinions you swallow because they might cause disagreement. The constant editing of your own personality to fit into a mold you did not create. You have become an expert in reading the room, especially when that room contains your parents. A slight shift in their expression, a certain tone of voice, a silence that feels heavier than words, you notice it all, and you adjust, you perform. This performance is so seamless, so automatic, that you often forget you are acting. The real you, the one with different dreams and quieter fears, gets pushed further and further down until its voice is just a faint echo from a place you rarely visit. This is the daily reality of the good child. It is a life of quiet accommodation, where your greatest achievement is not causing a problem, and your deepest failure is the disappointment you work so hard to avoid. The weight of this is not always dramatic. It is the slow, steady pressure of a river stone, worn smooth over years, losing its original shape without ever seeming to break. But where does this relentless need to please truly begin? It starts long before you had the words to name it. It begins in the small, dependent world of childhood, where a parent's approval was not just a comfort, but a matter of survival. A child's mind is a magical, illogical place. It cannot understand that a parent is tired or stressed or simply human. It interprets a frown, a moment of inattention, a sharp word, in the only way it can, as a reflection of its own worth. I must have been bad. I am too much. I am not enough. In that fragile ecosystem, a simple transaction is established. Good behavior equals love, and misbehavior equals its withdrawal. This is not a conscious lesson. It is written into the nervous system, a deep, unconscious blueprint for safety. You learned to monitor the emotional weather in your home, to sense the shifting winds of a parent's mood before the storm even arrived. Your own spontaneous feelings, anger, need, sadness, became dangerous, not because they were wrong, but because they risked disrupting the delicate balance that kept you feeling secure and loved. So, you learned to hide them. You put away the toy that was too loud. You stopped crying when you were hurt. You learned to say, "I'm fine," when you were anything but. You created a version of yourself that was manageable, agreeable, and lovable, and you buried the rest. That buried self, with all its raw and honest needs, did not disappear. It simply went underground, into the dark soil of your unconscious, where it continues to live and to influence every choice you make, from the most trivial to the most life-altering. This blueprint, once a strategy for survival, now becomes the architect of your adult suffering. You carry this hidden self into every relationship, every job, every decision. You find yourself drawn to partners who are distant or critical, unconsciously recreating the familiar dynamic where you must earn affection. You feel inexplicably guilty when you succeed on your own terms, as if your happiness is a form of betrayal. You become a master of anticipation, constantly trying to meet needs that were never spoken, in rooms where no one is even asking you to perform anymore. The original audience has left the theater, but you are still on stage, reciting lines written for a play that ended long ago. This is the great irony of the repetition compulsion. You are trying to solve an old problem in a new context, but the solution is the problem. The more you please, the emptier you feel. The more you seek that final, definitive approval, the more it eludes you, because you are chasing a ghost. The love you are trying to secure was conditional in a past you cannot change, and so your efforts in the present are destined to fail, leaving you with a profound sense of exhaustion and fraud. You are tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but a soul-deep weariness from carrying a version of yourself that was never yours to carry. The energy required to keep your true desires buried is immense. It leaks out as anxiety, as a low hum of resentment, as a feeling of being stuck in a life that looks perfect from the outside but feels like a cage on the inside. The collapse is not always a dramatic breakdown. More often, it is a slow fading. It is the loss of passion for things you once loved. It is the inability to answer the simple question, what do you want? It is the quiet dread on a Sunday night, not for the Monday ahead, but for the performance it requires. It is the haunting sense that you are living a life that belongs to someone else, and you are merely its caretaker. And so you arrive at the quiet center of the storm, the place where all the performing stops, if only for a moment. You look at your life, the respectable job, the correct opinions, the relationships that look right on paper, and you feel nothing. Or perhaps you feel a dull, persistent ache, a homesickness for a self you have never truly met. This is not a failure. It is not a sign that you are broken. It is, in fact, the first moment of true clarity. This emptiness is not a void, it is a space. A space that was always meant to be filled with your own laughter, your own mistakes, your own peculiar and beautiful desires. The hollow feeling is the exact shape of the person you were always meant to be, waiting patiently for you to return. This understanding is the turning point. It is the moment you realize that the chain is not made of steel, but of a story. A story you learned as a child about what you must do to be loved. And like any story, it can be questioned. It can be rewritten. The guilt you feel when you consider your own needs is not a signal that you are doing something wrong. It is the old alarm system, wired into you long ago, going off because you are finally moving outside the perimeter of the approved map. The anxiety that rises when you think about saying no, about choosing something for yourself, is not a warning of danger. It is the tremble of the old foundation, the one built on earning love, beginning to shake. And it must shake for something new, something real, to be built in its place. Freud pointed to this with his idea of the unconscious. We are not just what we remember, we are also what we have forgotten, what we have buried to survive. And that buried self does not die. It waits. It speaks through our symptoms, the chronic dissatisfaction, the unexplained sadness, the patterns we repeat again and again. When you finally stop and listen to that emptiness, you are not listening to nothing. You are listening to the most honest part of you, the part that refused to be bargained away. It is telling you that the love you are seeking through performance is a substitute, a shadow. The real love, the kind that fills you, begins with the terrifying, liberating act of turning toward yourself and saying, "You are enough, exactly as you are." This is the profound and simple truth at the heart of it all. You were never meant to live a life that was a continuous apology for your own existence. The freedom you seek is not found in finally pleasing them. It is found in the quiet courage of no longer needing to. When was the last time you made a choice, a truly significant choice, without first imagining how you would explain it to your parents? without rehearsing the conversation in your head, without preparing for their reaction, their judgment, or their silent disappointment. Can you feel the weight of that constant, invisible audience? If these words found a home in you today, if they echoed something you have felt but never named, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It is a small signal to yourself and to others that you are ready to listen to the voice that has been waiting so long to be heard. And so we come to the quiet, almost imperceptible shift. It doesn't happen with a grand declaration or a dramatic scene. It begins in the stillness, in the space between one breath and the next. You are driving home, or you are staring out a window, or you are simply sitting in a room, and a thought arrives, not as a shout, but as a whisper. What if I stopped? What if the performance, just for today, just for this one small thing, simply ended? This is the beginning of comprehension. This is the moment you stop asking, "Why am I so tired?" and start asking, "Who am I when I am not trying to earn my place?" The answer is not a list of hobbies or a new career path. It is a feeling, a sensation of the body relaxing, of a breath going all the way down to your belly for the first time in years. It is the recognition that the guilt you feel when you choose yourself is not a moral failing, but a phantom pain from an old wound. The anxiety that tightens your chest is not a warning of a real danger, but the echo of a child's fear that love will be taken away. You start to see the architecture of your own prison, and you realize you have been holding the key all along. You begin to understand that your parents, in their own humanity, with their own fears and their own unconscious blueprints, could only love you in the way they knew how. Their approval was a currency in a world they also inherited. This understanding does not excuse hurt, but it drains the anger of its poison. It allows you to see them as people, separate from you, which is the first step in seeing yourself as a person, separate from them. The compulsion to please starts to loosen its grip, not when you fight it, but when you understand its origin. You see the small child who decided that being good was the only way to be safe. And you can finally look at that child with compassion and say, "You don't have to do that anymore. We are safe now." This is the profound and deeply human realization. The freedom you have been seeking outside of yourself, in their nods and their smiles, was always an internal condition. It was always waiting for you to stop performing and simply be. To be messy, to be uncertain, to have desires that make no sense to anyone else. To live a life that is yours, not a replica of someone else's dream. This is not an act of rebellion against your parents. It is the ultimate act of loyalty to yourself. It is the moment you stop living a life of continuous apology and start living a life of quiet, unshakable presence. When you look at your own reflection, who do you see looking back? The person you built to be loved, or the person you were before you knew you had to build anything at all? If this understanding brings you a moment of clarity or even a quiet sense of relief, let that feeling be your guide. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more conversations that turn inwards. This is how we learn, together, to listen to the truth that has been whispering to us all along. And so you begin the slow unlearning. It happens not in one grand gesture, but in 1,000 small surrenders. The first time you express an opinion you know they would disagree with, and the world does not end. The first time you choose a path that feels right to you, even as your stomach clenches with the old familiar guilt. The first time you realize that their disappointment is a feeling they must carry, not a command you must obey. Each of these moments feels like a betrayal at first. Your unconscious mind, trained over decades, will scream that you are being selfish, that you are risking everything. But with each small act of choosing yourself, the scream becomes a whisper, and the whisper eventually fades into silence. You are not building a new personality. You are excavating the one that was always there. buried under layers of shoulds and ought tos. You are meeting the person you were before you learned to perform. This is not a process of becoming someone else. It is a process of coming home. And like any homecoming, it is both strange and deeply familiar. You will find parts of yourself that you forgot, a forgotten sense of humor, a quiet curiosity, a capacity for joy that does not require permission. This is the real freedom Freud hinted at. It is not a freedom from your parents, but a freedom from the unconscious prison of their expectations. It is the freedom to finally hold your own life in your own hands, with all its imperfections and its peculiar beauty, and to call it yours. Can you remember a time, even a fleeting moment, when you felt completely at ease in your own skin without the need to explain or justify your existence? If this quiet truth resonates with you, if it feels like a door opening in a room you thought was locked forever, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It is a simple way to honor the part of you that is ready to stop performing and start living. This unlearning, this quiet homecoming, is perhaps the most courageous work you will ever do, because it asks you to tolerate the absence of the old rewards. The silence where their approval used to be will feel loud and unsettling. The space you create by no longer performing will, at first, feel like emptiness. You will be tempted to fill it with new performances, new people to please, new standards to meet. This is the old blueprint trying to reassert itself. It is the ghost of the child who believed that being good was the same as being safe. The work is to sit in that silence, to let the emptiness be, to resist the urge to run back into the familiar cage simply because its walls made you feel contained. In that silence, you will begin to hear your own voice. It will not sound like a hero in a movie. It will sound small. It might want to rest. It might confess a dream that seems silly. It might admit a hurt you have carried for years. Your job is not to act on everything it says, but simply to listen. To offer it the same patient attention you once reserved for monitoring the moods of others. This is how you rebuild a relationship with yourself. Not through grand declarations, but through this daily, gentle listening. You are learning to parent the parts of you that were sent away long ago. You are learning that your own approval is the only approval that can ever truly fill you. And in doing so, you are not destroying your past. You are finally completing it. You are giving that child the unconditional safety it craved, not from your parents, but from the adult you have become. This is the final, gentle twist of understanding. The less you need to please your parents, the more capable you become of loving them and yourself without condition. You are no longer trying to extract from them a love they may not have known how to give. You are free to receive the love they can offer and to let that be enough, because you have become the source of your own. What is one small, almost invisible desire you have buried today because it felt too inconvenient, too messy, or too unlike the person you are supposed to be? If this quiet act of choosing yourself feels like a risk, know that you are not alone. For more conversations that honor the truth of your inner world, like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is how we remind each other that the most important approval has always been our own.